Well, welcome back to the CPA Firm Partners Conference. Hopefully you've had a chance to do some good networking and had a chance to connect with other people through our networking area as well, or private video conversations as well through the People tab as well. We have about 30 minutes left, and I'm going to be introducing the panelists soon. I'm just waiting for another session to end, which is almost wrapped up, and then we're going to get people joining us as well here. So for those of you watching right now, thanks very much for being on. Really excited to have the panel and have an opportunity to speak with Jehanzeb. We're going to have a great conversation in the next half hour. We do also tack on an extra 10 minutes as well to the end of the event. So from 4 o'clock to 4:10 Eastern time, we tack on 10 more minutes. You can get into the networking area, do a little bit more networking, or go into the expo area as well, and check out some of the products and services and organizations that are here to help you and support you as well. So let's get started. Today's event is presented again by TorontoJobs.ca and powered by Event Logic with a K.ca, and also sponsored by TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. So joining me now, Jehanzeb Zafar, Managing Partner, Bay Street CPA Professional Corporation. Welcome, Jehanzeb. How are you?
Hi, Marc. I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Well, thanks for participating. I know it's a bit of a busy time right now with taxes and everything, so I appreciate you taking the time. So perhaps you can let people know a little bit about your firm, about yourself that people may not know, and talk about your career in public accounting as well.
Sure. So my name is Jehanzeb Zafar. I started my public accounting career back in 1997. And I joined PricewaterhouseCoopers. That's where I started. Throughout this time, mostly I've remained in public practice. I went on industry side for a year, didn't like it much. So I saw I had this thing of like working with clients and meeting with different people and working on different engagements. So I left PwC and joined back after 1.5 years, and then I have completed 10 years with PwC and EY, and finally started my own firm back in 2009. It was after my name at that time. The rules were different. In 2015, I converted into a professional corporation and named it Bay Street CPA Professional Corporation. And it has been a wonderful experience, a lot of hard work. It's not definitely easy to start a firm. So in 2009, when I started the firm, I spent a lot of time on business development, and ultimately what I've turned into is, I think, more of a business development guy, while not forgetting about my core areas, like doing well in those areas. Another thing is that I started with insurance, and this is what I want to especially share. Most of my time had been in assurance and some of advisory. I never envisioned myself as a tax practitioner. As I started doing taxes, I still wasn't very interested in doing simple tax returns and things like that. But as I was able to build my practice and deal with more complicated tax matters, that's what I love. I started giving up like assurance side, or not giving that much importance to assurance side. And now we specialize in the areas of non-resident taxation and real estate taxation and some other like matters, especially non-resident. And that's an area which I just love. So what I've seen is that you start as a general practice, and then slowly and gradually, the real reward is if you want to pick up on some areas of your practice which you really like to do and which are high value, and then go towards that niche. The other thing I just wanted to mention about the firm is that from the first day, I was very much in touch with technology. I was in Silicon Valley before with PwC, so I think that background helped as well. I had worked with a lot of software companies in Silicon Valley, and I was just myself also very much interested in technology, bringing efficiencies. And from the first day, I have used cloud-based systems, whatever was available at that time. There wasn't much. And I was working with some new accounting software companies, just as like they would like to have some of the accountants help them give feedback. So that's a point in time since when I've been involved with technology. And it has helped in a big way when COVID-19 hit last year. There was not even a second of time loss because we were already completely cloud-based and working on platforms where we had shared workspaces with clients and within the team. So these are a couple of things I just wanted to share, which have been really helpful in the practice. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, and how I think after getting into tax and specializations of tax, I really love public practice more. I think by now I have been so bored with audit and assurance, and I find tax very, very interesting. So that has just totally changed how I used to practice as an accountant.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the intro. That's great to hear your story, and joined also by Arun Mathur, partner at Duthie and Company, Duthie and Co. LLP, Chartered Professional Accountants. Thanks, Arun, for being on.
How are you doing, Marc? It's a pleasure to be on again.
Same to see here. Nice to see you again. So perhaps you can do the same as Jehanzeb, but maybe talk a little bit about your firm, your career, sure. To get to where you are. Sure. Maybe a little bit more about your background as well for people watching.
Okay, wonderful. So I started my career in EY's Toronto office back in the 70s. At that time, the firm was called Clarkson Gordon. And I did 4 years of audit, 4 years of computer audit. Then I got into national office. So that's way back in the 1970s and 80s. I then left the profession, got into a career as a commercial real estate developer and a commercial real estate broker. Did that for a number of years. And currently, I'm in a smaller practice, this firm that you mentioned, Marc, Gerald Duthie and Company. So coming from the largest company in the country to a smaller practice is obviously very, very different. So we've done the big clients. We're working with some smaller clients. So our practice is, I would say, it's like a regional company. We're more Ontario-based. We do have some clients in the US. And we have a couple of offices, nothing like EY would have, which is a global company. Along the way, I've got a training company that I started about 8 or 9 years ago. So training has always been in my heart. So we started with governance training back in the days when I was in downtown Toronto. I used to go from King and Bay. I used to walk over to Ryerson and teach there at night and so on. Now our training company has become quite large. We have online courses. I speak at conferences, and I do live training right across Canada and in Bermuda. So it's a very interesting life. We still are in practice, but I'm doing a lot of other things as well. I gave up the commercial real estate many years ago, but I still invest in real estate. I still have a lot of knowledge along those lines as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for the intro. And for those of you watching, if you have questions for Jehanzeb or Arun, anything you want to know, anything that you'd like to discuss, you think might be an issue that you'd want to hear another perspective on, feel free to post it in the chat, and I'm happy to moderate questions. So I found this study that talked about the 5 toughest problems that accounting firms face today. So this is the list: retiring baby boomers, winning the talent war, pressure to reduce prices, how to stand out from competition, and advancing technology. So let me ask each of you, what do you think is maybe your biggest challenge or toughest problem, and what are you doing, or how do you feel you're fixing it, and maybe sharing some tips with others that are watching? So maybe Jehanzeb, why don't we start with you?
I think I would like if I can pass it over to Arun, and because he has more experience with clients from the past, and then I can come in second.
Sure.
Possible?
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Arun, you have. You have.
So Marc, I should probably respond to each one of those 5 things because they all made.
It looks like we've maybe lost his screen for a bit. Jehanzeb?
Yeah, it seems like that.
Looks like it's frozen there. Arun, it looks like it might be frozen there for a second. So Jehanzeb, you want to tackle that one now, or do you want to go on to another question?
I think I'm going to pass on that question. Yeah.
Okay, you don't like that one, right? Okay, well, let's talk about this. Like, what do you feel? Oh, Aaron, sorry, go ahead. We lost you there for a bit, so go ahead.
I was just saying, like, every one of those 5 things you mentioned, Marc, made me think right away, right? So it's almost like we should dissect each one. But definitely technology is very high priority, because such a rapidly changing environment technologically, that any firms that are not staying current and don't have staff that are current are going to have problems, right? Finding competent staff, and you and I have talked about this over the years, right? This, I think, is another huge thing, which is a little bit contraintuitive, because we see a lot of very competent people coming from overseas. We see a lot of people graduating, but in terms of taking someone, plugging them into work and having them perform is still a very big challenge for us. I actually went through some recruitment about 3 years ago. And I can tell you, Marc, I was quite surprised, because we shortlisted 2 or 3 people, and all of them had already taken another position. And when we looked at the resumes, a lot of the people who applied did not really know how to do the work. So it definitely is a challenge in our industry. So I knocked off 2 of your 5 things. Just remind me of some of the others.
Sure, yeah. So there was finding or retiring baby boomers was kind of the first one. Winning the talent war was number 2, which you just talked about. Number 3, pressure to reduce prices. Number 4, how to stand out from competition. And number 5, advancing technology.
Okay. So definitely this retiring baby boomer is a huge issue, right? We see that in front of us. I see that in my clients. We've actually gone through some recruitment to help a client, and I think this is a huge challenge, right? Like, people that are highly experienced, that know the work, they know they have the underlying knowledge and all of that. To replace that kind of person is going to be very challenging. So I think that requires thinking ahead. It requires succession planning. You cannot deal with that at that moment. You've got to deal with that much earlier. So we see that firsthand, that this is I would not only call it upcoming, but it's happening already, right? We see a number of people retiring, and you've got to replace that. I guess if everything goes well, the AI and the automation will come in and take up some of this thing. But I guess it's still a few years away before it actually comes in that well. So Jehan, you want to take over from here? I've given some of my thoughts.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, especially one is technology, and along with staffing. So I think the way we're going, due to technology, a lot of firms who do simple data processing work on a very low value tax returns might want to look into building work which is more technically high level and needs research skills, need more knowledge, because a lot of work, I believe a lot of simple data processing work will be taken over by technology. Even I think governments might be introducing more technology so that people don't even have to do tax returns if they just have some basic kind of incomes like a T4. So it's very important for survival, not even growth of CPA firms, I think, to get into more advanced work. And as far as the training part is concerned, I think a big part, the big problem is that the bigger firms have such good training systems set up there. They have training managers and all. And we, the smaller firms, haven't been able to yet have really great training platforms. So Marc, that's maybe you can bring something in for SMPs, small and medium-sized practitioners, where we could introduce good training for people, and there could be membership for different firms who could become members and have a membership for the number of employees who get trained in those trainings or something like that. But that's very important. I will totally agree with Arun. I have also seen these CVs, resumes with all like great qualification and experience details, but it's so difficult to get people into work. And that's why turnover is so very important, like to have very low turnover if you're doing any kind of like high level or specialized work, because it's very difficult to replace people and get them started into that situation. And for retiring baby boomers, I think there are a lot of firms who are still doing paper-based work. Pandemic has really forced them to convert a lot into technology, and it has been a challenge. So I think that would really help the people who are looking for firms now have more choice of firms which have some kind of technology implemented. But I think there's still some room for that. And there's another opportunity, which is buying those kind of firms and bringing a lot of efficiencies and reducing the hours, increasing the charge out rates. So basically, not increasing, like automatically the realization rates will go higher. But there's a lot of opportunity in that if a paper-based firm is being acquired, or paper or semi-paper based firm is being acquired, and then technology is used to bring a lot of improvements. And there are a lot of software in market right now which can help really reduce hours. But the biggest challenge we face is we're running a practice, working on clients, at the same time when we have to make these like big changes, that becomes a problem, and some things just get pushed and pushed and pushed. I think Arun would also agree with me that it's a really difficult thing to come out of the mainstream work and work on these things. But those are very important, fundamental.
And it's interesting you mentioned about the paperless. So what happened is about 5 years ago, I had lunch with one of my staff, and we were just talking about how I had seen a firm in Niagara that had gone totally paperless. Like, we had a meeting and they had a computer connected to the boardroom table, and the partner who met with us didn't have any paper, any pad, nothing, right? So I mentioned this to one of my staff members, and he said, "Oh, I've done that. It's very easy. It's not a big deal." Now, had we not converted 5 years ago with the pandemic, it would have been like a nightmare, right? Because we were able to work from home. We were able to, like, all of us were able to carry on, and our files were virtual. Prior to that, we used to carry these binders, and it was a different thing. I'm hoping most of the firms are out of that paper-based files, because those who are still there, I think this pandemic was a big wake-up call, right? Like, it's just so much harder to do, right?
Right, exactly. In that, I'll quickly share that, like, even in those days, like years ago, I would actually tell clients that I'm not going to take paper from you. And sometimes, initially, like, clients sometimes felt offended. Like, I was like, go scan and send those to me. But that was just my way of, just enforcing it. Otherwise, it would be just tough. Like, people found it easy to bring shoe boxes and like with paper and all. And I was like, no, sorry, I just can't work like that. So sometimes I do like that.
But I do admit, as an older person, I still do print documents, right? Because I'm used to finding errors. I'm used to doing certain ways. So we've gone paperless, but I find it very hard to have a split screen and compare last year with this year. Like, it's very tough on the eyes as you get older, right? So I'm a little bit of both. I'm a little bit old and a little bit with the virtual.
There's something to be said about printing something off and circling it and making notes, as opposed to trying to do that online, isn't there? So let's talk about Jehanzeb. I want to touch a little bit more on your overseas and that model and where firms can benefit, not benefit, where you can help as well, because there's that opportunity there for you too, right, to help firms. So why don't you touch on that and kind of how it works if for those firms like the Aruns of the world, Arun, for example, or other firms that might be wanting to maybe outsource overseas, but they don't know where to start, what to do, how to go about it. What do you suggest?
Right. So I'll start with, like, I'll focus on most important things since we have limited time. One of the important things is that there are a lot of firms out there in India, Pakistan, Philippines. These are three main countries, and I'm sure there are other countries as well. Who, like, I'm sure all of us, like, attending this session, we keep on receiving emails from different firms in different places. But my experience of working with somebody you just don't know, or somebody who does not have enough experience to demonstrate on the Canadian side, like wherever you are, Canadian or US or wherever you're located. My experience is that a lot of time those kind of relationships end up as nightmares because quality is not there. It's not only in case of outsourcing accounting work, outsource your Google AdWords, outsource your SEO. There are like lots of firm out there in the market who will show you a rosy picture, get your work, and then not deliver quality. So what I worked on was setting up a shared services center, which is right now like focusing on accounting and finance, and then we are like planning to expand it. And I've used it for quite a while and really benefited from it, because while I have done that with Pakistan, and people obviously can have their comfort. Somebody can set it up in India or other countries. I've set it up in Pakistan. Now I'm offering the services to other CPA firms as well. And what I tried to do was filling in the gap between that just outsourcing to just anybody, ABC and company, and having horror stories, and like getting very expensive workforce here, while there are like a lot of pressures on the costs, especially on the assurance side, even on the tax side. So trying to bring in between like a rate which might be a little bit higher than like what somebody could just find with an ABC and company, but much less than what it will cost if you hire people in Canada. Plus, some other advantages is that you don't have to deal with you have to deal with much less people for training and human resource matters and like employment law and all those kind of things. And this has helped me save 40% to even sometimes 55% in employment costs. And while accountants are not like very like less expensive, very kind of, I don't want to use the word cheap, but economical in salaries and all that in Pakistan, but still there's a lot of difference when I compare. So I can get a much experienced person there, and we have already seen so many immigrate here, and we see like there's so many great accountants coming from like these countries. So we can utilize actually that kind of staff, give them really good work environment there. So you're doing some good social work as well. And then what the plan is and how we have been working on it is training those people very well in the background. So they are, and we are adding services like administrative assistant services, even for CPA firms and others. We are offering these, managing your social media pages and other things. And all these staff get trained in the background, and CPAs here can get a staff there. So they will be directly working with that staff. What the organization is doing, it's a shared service center, so it's providing training, it's managing all the payroll, it's managing all the laws and everything, and it's very simple interaction financially, where an invoice is coming in and the firm is paying from here, at the same time saving a lot on costs. When you include the cost of space, if we get back to physical workspaces, and cost of people like salaries and space and training and other things, it's a huge saving.
All right, great. Great insight. It gives a good demo. Arun, what have you learned about yourself in the last year or 15 months or so with during COVID and all that? What's been your personal from a business perspective, from your own personal development, whatever? What have you learned?
So I've learned, I guess, how we have to be resilient, right? So this pandemic is a global pandemic, and no one is spared from it. I know some of the ways it impacted me. Like I had a lot of conferences that were arranged. I was going to travel, I was going to speak, and then suddenly everything came to a sudden end. We had to adapt. We got into Zoom, we got into online training. We had to reduce the duration of the courses, number of things like that. On the practice side, I think this idea that we had virtual files and that we had scanned documents, we could work remotely was a big blessing. Had we not had that, it would have been very tough. I actually walked into a client back in December, and I was just about to go in for a meeting with the controller to talk about the year end and all that. I happened to phone the CFO. She was in Newfoundland or somewhere. And I just said to her, I had a meeting with the owner, just going to go in and say hello to the controller, talk about the year end. And right away, she said to me, don't do that, because they actually had a staff member that had been infected. And they were so scared, like the entire accounting staff, right? So I was just going to saunter in and sit with her and talk with her and all that. So I basically had left my briefcase in her office. I went in, I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to phone you from home and we'll talk on Zoom, right? So some of these things we had to do. I think for the clients, it was very tough. I can tell you from my experience, the people doing payroll and the people doing the accounting and controllership, this wage subsidies and the rent subsidies were a total nightmare, right? So this helped the owners to recover some of their wages and to stay afloat and all of that. But the burden on the payroll people, the burden on the accounting and the controllership people, and it also affected the year-end accountants because we had to prove that the wage subsidies were done properly, the rent subsidies were done properly. So this was added work in the middle of a nightmare kind of a year, right? So it really required us to think on our feet. And we had some people working from home, we had some people in the office. I actually haven't gone to my office. I think I went in maybe 2 or 3 times in the entire 18 months, right? So it was very, very disruptive.
Yeah, for sure. So we only have a couple minutes left here. What's the future of the CPA firm? What does it look like? How's it going to change? Forget about working from home, people working from home, not working from home, but just, conceptually the model. Is it going to stay the same? What are your thoughts as to what the future holds? I think Jehanzeb, you're going to say, well, there's going to be more outsourcing overseas perhaps, right? But what does it look like? Is it going to be the same, structure? How do you think it's going to change? What are your views?
I think,
or Jehanzeb?
Sorry. Yeah, I think much less bookkeepers in the firm. All that will be automatic because if you do, the firms which won't do it would have trouble. Like they would have eventually get rid of employees. So there will be much less bookkeepers. There will be more work on the advice side. A lot of compliance will go away, as I said before as well, and again, like firms which are not adding any substantial value and which are just doing volumes and volumes of tax return, and we have a lot like those. I think we'll be seeing some like really difficult times. And CPA, and I think this is good. Like CPA firms will be really focusing on tax law and interpretation, or when they are working in advisory or accounting or audit side, like doing real advisory and value addition matters instead of working on base like we do right now as well. So we start with base and do those things. There won't be opportunities to do that in future. That's what I really think.
Okay, great. And Arun?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Jehan, because this is my experience. Like when I started my career, we were doing things by hand. And I saw microcomputers come in, and we saw all of the changes over all these years. In EY's office in Toronto, we used to have rooms where there were typists and stenographers and all of that, right? Prior to that period, we had phone operators. So you can see the trend, right? The trend is that the mundane work will get done more automatically. I do have one difference with Jehan, and I just wanted to say this without offending anyone. We looked at outsourcing, we looked at going offshore. I actually met a company that moved all of their stuff offshore about 15, 20 years ago. And when the controller started describing it, I said it almost sounded magical, right? It just sounded too good to be true. So we ended up investigating, we ended up talking, we had someone meet us, they gave us quotes and everything. And in one conversation with our office manager, she made the comment that she said, if you do this, you're moving Canadian jobs to India or Pakistan or wherever. And that one sentence changed my mind. So I actually unplugged the whole project. I said, I don't want to do this because I'm fiercely Canadian. My life is here. And, if we can do a good job for the client. So I have not gone that way, but I know everybody else has, right? Big firms, small firms, software firms, everyone is downloading the work to smaller, like lower cost centers. This is how you get your efficiencies, right? So I do see that automation happening. It'll happen this way. And definitely, as Jehan is saying, there'll be a requirement to upskill. So whether it's technology, whether it's data science, whether it's different areas. And of course, we have emerging areas like ESG and sustainability and different parts of accounting that is emerging as well. So I think our members have to kind of shift in the direction of more higher skill work. And the mundane work gradually will finish, I think,
Yeah.
Right. So
I
one comment on that. So I hear your point, and I have so many times thought about it, right? Like that you are taking jobs out of here. But what I've learned later on, and that's my perspective on it, is that you are like taking away. You can take out jobs up to a certain level. And that may change in future with more and more collaboration and better internet and all, but up to a certain level of competence. So my take on this is that, okay, push all the work which can be done overseas, and then the firm has more capacity, the partners have more capacity to develop more high-level work locally, and then exactly that kind of work where instead of dealing with a lot of those things which can be done by much lower staff or somebody overseas, work more with high-level things and how we can change the profession and
Sure.
not do the jobs here. So people here still get the jobs, but they just work at a different level, work with different things and different.
No, I understand. The people we met with were very highly experienced, and they had tax partners and audit partners from the UK, from Canada, and the US who moved to India and Pakistan, were running. So in other words, it was like an offshore entire practice, right? So they could even interpret, they could do everything we do here. But this is just a philosophical and emotional kind of response.
On that note, we do have to wrap things up, but great conversation. We probably could talk about this for a couple of more hours for sure. But I do want to thank you both for being on here, panelists. Arun, Mathur, partner at Duthie & Co., LLP Chartered Professional Accountants, and Jehanzeb, Zafar, managing partner at Bay Street CPA Professional Corporation. Thanks to all of you for coming to the Canadian CPA Firm Partners Conference. Today's event presented by TorontoJobs.ca and powered by Event Logic with a K.ca. My name is Marc Belaiche, president of TorontoJobs.ca. How did you like the event? Let us know. We'll send you a survey to complete within the next 24 hours. Please do it. It'll take you just a few minutes to give us some good feedback as to what you liked, what you didn't like. I want to thank all the speakers, the panelists, and the team as well behind the scenes. A lot of people involved, Carla, Alex, Rachel, and Sandra and Sarah, to name a few. So just want to thank them for putting this all together. TorontoJobs.ca, if you are looking to fill positions, feel free to reach out to me or email sales@TorontoJobs.ca. EventLogic.ca, if there's an event you'd like to have put on, a conference or whatever, you can visit the website eventlogic.ca, or if you'd like to have your organization or services highlighted, we have speaker, sponsor, and exhibitor options available as well for other upcoming events. And I did include in the event chat some of the other upcoming events that we have and a link to all of them. We run about 13, 14 virtual events a month. Toronto Entrepreneurs Conference happens tomorrow, Wednesday, June 16th. The link is in the event chat. Best Practices for Recruiting Staff in 2021 happens Thursday, June 17th. The Canadian Virtual Controllers Conference happens on Tuesday, June 22nd. And the Canadian Virtual Presidents Conference happens on Thursday, June 24th as well. And I put in the links for TorontoJobs.ca if you want to follow us. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also check out our TorontoJobs.ca YouTube channel. A lot of great videos. There's hundreds of videos on there that you can watch all about recruitment and interviewing and so on. And I've also put in a number of links to our LinkedIn groups that would probably interest you. The Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, Toronto Chartered Professional Accountants, Halton Peel CPA Ontario Association, and the Canadian Finance and Accounting Professionals Group. So, and then I've also included my LinkedIn link as well. So feel free to connect with me if we're not already connected. And as I mentioned earlier, we do tack on another 10 minutes at the end of this event. So you still have some time to network through our speed networking, visit our expo and more. And again, thank you to the two of you. And thanks to everybody for being on here today at the CPA Firm Partners Conference. Look forward to seeing you at the next event and signing off. And thanks again, Jehanzeb and Arun.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a real pleasure to meet.
Having us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.